You do not change your life by speaking of change. You change it by vibrating with the feeling of the life you desire. I want you to stop for a moment and reflect on this. Every great invention, every masterpiece, every towering fortune began not with words, but with a silent stirring, a vibration in the mind of a dreamer. The Wright brothers didn't talk flight into existence. They felt it. They saw it in the eye of their imagination, and they believed it. Long before the world dared to. You are no different. Words are tools, yes, but they are only symbols, dead and powerless, until you charge them with belief, with emotion, with the vibration of desire. It is not what you say aloud that shapes your life. It is what you feel deep within, even when no one else can see it. Your imagination, my friends, is the divine spark within you. It is the preview of life's coming attractions. It is your direct hotline to the infinite intelligence. But imagination alone will only entertain you until you marry it with emotion, with faith, with decision. That is when you begin to bend the very fabric of reality. You know, when I was a young man, lost in the depths of poverty, I didn't need someone to give me the roadmap. I didn't even need opportunity. I needed to awaken my vision. I began to see myself not as I was, but as I could be. I began to walk like that man, talk like that man, think like that man, and slowly, silently, the world began to bend to that vibration. You must do the same. Close your eyes. Picture the life you want. Feel it, not just in the mind, but in the soul. Let it stir in you until it burns. Don't ask when it will come. Don't ask how. Those are the questions of doubt. Instead, ask only, who must I become to vibrate at the level of that reality? Do not be fooled by appearances. The world is a mirror, not a creator. You don't receive what you say. You receive what you are. So become the person who already has it. Tune your mind to that frequency, and the universe has no choice but to respond. And when fear whispers, as it will, when doubt knocks, as it must, do not run. Stand firm, for the world has never been changed by those who waited for permission. It was changed by those who dared to believe in the invisible. So I ask you now, not to merely speak your dreams, but to vibrate with them, to walk in silence with certainty, to imagine with purpose, to believe without proof, because the only thing standing between your current life and the life of your deepest desire is the vibration of your own thoughts. Choose your frequency wisely and make your imagination into reality. You have been told your whole life to watch your words, to speak success, to declare your dreams out loud. But I say to you now, words alone are not the creative force of the universe. Words are shadows of thought. They are echoes of what is already vibrating deep within you. It is not what you say that builds your destiny. It is the vibration behind the words, the silent emotional frequency you carry that molds the world around you. You look around. Every single object in your environment, from the chair you sit on to the device in your hand, was once invisible. It existed only as a vibration, a thought energized with emotion in the mind of its creator. That vibration, though unseen, held more creative power than the loudest declaration. Why? Because the universe responds to vibration, to the state of mind and feeling you live in day after day. You can stand on a mountain and shout, "I am successful," 1,000 times, but if your belief, your inner vibration, says, "I am small, I am unsure, I am afraid," then you will remain shackled to your current condition. It is not the noise of your voice, but the tone of your spirit that the universe listens to. When I speak of vibration, I speak of the emotion that runs under your skin, the feeling that dwells in your chest when you wake each morning. Are you vibrating with defeat or with determination? Are you vibrating with fear or with faith? Your vibration is your magnet. It does not lie. It does not mask. It reveals what you truly expect, even when your words try to say otherwise. There is a reason why some men walk into a room and attract opportunity without saying a word. And there is a reason others speak endlessly, yet no one listens. One has learned to command his inner frequency. The other is still playing with words, hoping to be heard. You cannot fake vibration. You cannot decorate it with charm. The world may hear your voice, but the universe hears your state of being. When you align your inner frequency with the life you desire, you need not chase success. It begins to find you. Just as surely as a radio tunes into a broadcast already in the air, your life begins to tune into the conditions you are vibrating with. So the real work is not in speaking, it's in becoming, in feeling, in aligning, in choosing each thought with care as a builder chooses each brick in a temple. Imagination, what a soft word it sounds like, almost childish to the practical man. And yet, it is the secret power behind every miracle that has ever graced this earth. Let no one deceive you into believing that imagination is idle or weak. It is, in truth, the workshop of the soul. It is the place where the invisible is given shape, where the formless becomes form, where transformation is first conceived before it is ever lived. When I say imagination, I do not speak of fantasy. I speak of the highest faculty man has been given by the infinite intelligence. Imagination is the womb of reality itself. Before there was a car, a plane, a telephone, or a skyscraper, there was a picture, a mental movie playing in the mind of someone who dared to see what didn't yet exist. That mental movie, vivid and alive, was no less real than the concrete creation that followed. You see, all things that are visible were once invisible. They existed first in the form of thought. Thought, shaped in the crucible of imagination, becomes vision. And vision, when mixed with belief, becomes destiny. As a young man, I would sit for hours in silence, not idly dreaming, but constructing. I would build the life I desired, brick by brick, silently, in the chambers of my mind. When I had no money, I imagined abundance. When I had no support, I imagined allies. When I had no way forward, I imagined doors where others saw only walls. And slowly, the world outside began to match the picture I held within. This is not magic. It is law. The world responds not to what is, but to what is believed into being. You are creating your future now, not tomorrow. Not when opportunity knocks, but right now by the images you hold and feed within your imagination. It is your divine workshop, and you are its master architect. But here is the tragedy. Most people never use this power. They let the world fill their imagination with fear, with limits, with pictures of failure. And then they wonder why they live lives of quiet desperation. Your imagination can be your prison or your passage to power. It depends on how you use it. Do not underestimate this sacred faculty. The greatest treasures in the world lie not in banks or vaults, but in the minds of those who dare to imagine beyond their current circumstance. And I assure you, your present circumstance is not your fate. It is only the residue of past thoughts and beliefs. What you imagine today becomes the blueprint of your tomorrow. And hold the image of the life you seek so clearly in your mind that it begins to feel more real than the life you are living. Speak to it, walk with it, let it become your companion, because once the image is strong enough, the world will bend to match it. Imagination alone is like a spark without fuel, bright for a moment, but destined to die unless something gives it life. That something is faith. Faith is the fire that gives your vision energy, weight, and force. It is the emotional dynamite that transforms quiet dreams into unstoppable momentum. Without faith, even the grandest vision remains a ghost, an idea with no breath, a plan with no pulse. You must understand this. Imagination is the what, but faith is the how. Faith is not wishing. Faith is not hoping. Faith is a state of absolute knowing, even when your eyes cannot see, and your ears cannot hear, and your friends cannot understand. Faith is the ability to see with the heart, to walk into darkness and still know, deep in your bones, that the ground will rise to meet your feet. Every man who has achieved anything extraordinary has done so not because the facts were in his favor, but because faith was. The facts may have said impossible. The circumstances may have screamed no way. But faith whispered, It is already done. And so it was when you charge your imagination with faith, you inject it with life force. The picture in your mind begins to stir with energy. It begins to move, to take shape, to call to people, circumstances, and opportunities that match its frequency. It is no longer just an idea. It becomes a living, breathing intention. And what is intention, if not destiny in motion? But faith alone is still not enough. For faith must be followed by belief. Not passive belief, but belief in action. You must act as if what you have imagined is already yours. Not someday, not when things are perfect, but now, right now. That is the secret the masses never understand. They wait for signs, they wait for proof, but those who rise above don't wait. They move, they build, they become. Belief turns the engine. Belief walks the path when the road is unclear. Belief does not consult the past for permission. Belief steps into the unknown and says, I am already what I imagined. And with that declaration felt, not just spoken, the world begins to shift. I have seen men with average minds and no connections rise to greatness on the strength of belief alone. I have seen doors open where none existed because one person D. Before there is applause, there is silence. Before there is recognition, there is obscurity. And before there is success, there is a silent vibration, so faint, so private, that only you can feel it. You may think that success begins with opportunity or talent or a well-timed conversation. But no, my friend, every true success begins in a moment that is completely invisible to the world. A moment of inner awakening, a shift in energy, a feeling not yet explained, not yet seen, but undeniable. It is a vibration, a quiet yet powerful declaration from within. I am more than what I appear to be. It does not begin with words. Words come later. Success begins before language, before explanation. It begins in the soul with a change in frequency. It is the decision to become something greater, not shouted from a rooftop, but whispered in the chambers of your own spirit. And once that vibration begins, the external world has no choice but to reflect it. You know, when I sat across the table from Andrew Carnegie, I was not yet a man of success, but I carried the vibration of someone who would become one. I believed it before the world could see it. That feeling shaped my tone, my posture, my presence, and he felt it. It was not in what I said, it was in what I radiated. And that invisible signal changed the course of my life. That is how it begins for everyone who rises. They carry a frequency before they carry a title. They walk into rooms without wealth, without fame, without credentials, but they vibrate with purpose, with belief, with an inner certainty that cannot be faked. People feel it. Circumstances begin to respond to it, and slowly, silently, the world begins to arrange itself around that vibration. This is why you must guard your inner state above all else. Your vibration is your true introduction. It speaks before your mouth ever opens. It enters a room before your name is called. It is the announcement of who you really are becoming. And understand this, no one else has to feel it for it to be real. It does not require validation. You could be sitting alone, unknown, uncelebrated, and still carry the frequency of a king. And eventually, that frequency will shape the outer world to match the inner one. You must become the person who feels successful, feels powerful, feels certain before the results show up. That is the only way the results will show up. Because success is never a stroke of luck, and it is never born from noise. It is born from a silent vibration held consistently, fiercely, quietly, until the world can no longer ignore it. What if I told you that everything you're searching for, every ounce of success, every triumph, every bold creation is not out there in the world waiting to be discovered, but already within you waiting to be unlocked? You were not born empty. You were born with seeds, blueprints of greatness already encoded within the soil of your soul. But these seeds do not grow in just any environment. They grow in tuned minds, minds that are directed, focused, disciplined like a laser toward the frequency of achievement. Most people never tune in. They let the noise of the world drown out the signal of their own purpose. Your greatest achievements are not a matter of luck or chance. They are a matter of alignment. You must align your thoughts, your emotions, your habits, your actions, and your vision with the frequency of the life you were meant to live. Only then do those seeds of greatness begin to crack open and rise to the surface. I have met men with more resources than they knew what to do with, but no direction. I've seen people with extraordinary intelligence, yet paralyzed by doubt. And I have also known men with no money, no education, no favorable beginnings, but whose minds were tuned like a radio, fixed on a single purpose, vibrating with absolute clarity. And it was those men who moved mountains. Understand this, your mind is the most powerful broadcasting station in the world. Whatever you consistently think about, whatever you emotionalize, you begin to attract. Your mind is not a storage room. It is a magnet. And just like a magnet, it responds not to wishes, but to concentration, not to noise, but to clarity, not to fear, but to faith. And so if your greatest achievements feel far away, it is not because they are beyond your reach. It is because your mind has not yet been tuned to their frequency. You are still thinking the thoughts of your current life, instead of imagining the thoughts of your next one. You are still acting like a product of your past instead of broadcasting the signal of your future. The question is not, can I do it? The question is, am I willing to tune my mind so precisely, so intentionally, that nothing in the external world can distract me from the reality I am creating within? When you begin to live as if your success is inevitable, when you begin to think, feel, walk, and decide from that place, something miraculous